Hello everybody, good afternoon and welcome to the United Stand. This is your top 5 centre defensive midfielders that Manchester United should and must be looking to sign this summer. Manchester United need a centre defensive midfielder. Even today, there is stories that Manchester United wouldn't mind a centre defensive midfielder. It's not a priority, and if they get one, they'd be looking at a younger player to nurture over the next couple of years because they want a centre back and a striker. I find it absolutely stunning and really, really worrying. On the afternoon that we're here again, I just retweeted a tweet about Solskjaer's contract imminently going to be signed and announced in the next few weeks. I do not understand what we are doing at this football club if we are not going to sign a centre defensive midfielder. There is nothing coming through that can come in and do the job of 2 people. Remember, Paul Pogba's probably going to leave. We need a centre defensive midfielder. If this season has proved one thing, it's that Matic, Fred and McTominay are totally and utterly inefficient in that role. This must be a priority position for Manchester United. They must sign a centre defensive midfielder. And dreaming and having fantasies about a bloody striker, get a centre defensive midfielder in. And what I'm going to show you today is, and I'm sure you're going to get involved in as well, is that there's plenty of centre defensive midfielders out there that are way better than anything that we've got at very reasonable prices. This is absent-mindedness. This is incompetence on a whole new level. Because I'm telling you, if we go into next season with Matic, Fred and McTominay, we will not be in this position next year. We will have a new manager and we will probably not be in the Champions League. You cannot go into seasons with a centre defensive midfield pivot that we have at the moment. It just won't be successful. I think Brighton have got a better midfield than us. He's got to buy players. He's got to buy a centre defensive midfielder. So, number 1 on the list, well, not even number 1, they're just 5 players. And you know what? I've not even included people like the lad at Leipzig. Is it Lemar? Because he's injured. So I haven't included him. He's had a nasty injury. I mean, you could say Camavinga. I've not included him as well. So there's a few players I haven't included. So there's lots of players that we could get with good scouting. But the first one I'm going to talk about is Denis Zakaria. Obviously, Borussia Mönchengladbach. I know he's a bit of a favourite in the live comments. Mark, Research Cup Miners, young CDM from AZ, captain of the team, amazing passing and defensive ability, great mobility, can score in is about 35 MES, says Void Light. Well, I remember him from when we played them last year. We played them, didn't we, last year? Was it last year or the year before in the Europa League? My only worry is about bringing a player in from the Dutch thing. We've basically bought one of the Dutch football's best midfielders and still don't think he's better than. He doesn't get more game time. So I want to bring players in that are going to go into this team, and I think Zakaria would do that. I mean, this is not a young player. He's approaching his mid-20s. He's come back from a nasty knee injury this season. He's only got 1 year left on his contract. Centre defensive midfield is his position. This is what he does. He's mobile. He's far better than anything that we've got. And with 1 year left on his contract, then there is a player that can come in and do a job for Manchester United that is far better than what we have. So Zakaria would be a player that I'd be interested in. Price-wise, you're probably looking at around £30 million because he's only got a year left in his contract. I don't know why we're not looking at this. Manchester City have apparently even considered looking at him. This is the assault. This. I mean, to be fair, end of show. It's not really, but it could be. Why are we not looking at this sort of a player? This is exactly the sort of player we should be looking at. Now, I fear that Man United probably aren't looking at Zakaria because they're probably thinking we don't want another Fred. But he's nothing like Fred. Fred was bought as Fred is a box-to-box player. When we bought Fred, we weren't buying a centre defence midfielder. Fred was not bought as a centre defence midfielder. When you look at Fred at Shakhtar, he actually did score a few goals. He got a few assists. He was more of a box-to-box player. So Zakaria is nothing like Fred as a player. So definitely a player we should look at. Duncan has got some interesting news. He says Greenwood injury with England under-21s already. To be honest with you, I don't think Mason Greenwood's injury is anything to worry about, and I'd rather be him back in Manchester for a couple of weeks resting up for the last 2 months of the season than playing irrelevant games for the under-21s. He's too good for the under-21s anyway, so I'm not worried about Greenwood coming out. As much as I want Donny van der Beek and Pogba to stay, I wonder if either are going to be lobbied for a Varane swap deal, says Sam Wells. Well, Real Madrid are big fans of both of those. Real Madrid are big fans of both of those players. The other option is Declan Rice. I mean, for me, this is the one we should be trying to do. I don't think United want to do it because I don't think they want to spend the money. I think they like Declan Rice. I don't know whether Declan Rice likes United. I think he wants to go to Chelsea. 22, only just 22, captain of his club, leader, still got a lot of development left in him. I actually think Declan Rice is quite restricted by West Ham. I think there's a better footballer in Declan Rice than the job he does for West Ham. I think at West Ham he is technically one of their best footballers. I just think at West Ham, you're playing under David Moyes. He wants him to do a job in CDM. He doesn't want him to be too expansive, and I think at a club like Manchester United or Chelsea, the reins would come off to be a little bit more expansive than he actually is. I think he'd be a fantastic signing, and I think with Jesse Lingard there, it's a player that, all right, he's got 5 years left on his contract effectively, but we've got a player that they want, and they've got a player that we should be wanting to get as well. And I think the problem with Declan Rice is, and the reason we won't do the deal is because the noise is that United aren't even looking at a centre defensive midfielder. If we actually screwed our head on and realised that this is a priority position, this would be the player that they would be looking at. But because it's not as glamorous as a Sancho or a Haaland, which actually is not as prioritised as a CDM in my opinion, then this would be the player that they should be going for. I don't pretend that Declan Rice is the best CDM in the world. I don't pretend that. I don't actually think he'll ever be that. But I do think he's got growth in him. I do think he's already doing very, very well and is a big reason why West Ham where they are. He's the captain of that club, and I think that he is ready to take that step up at a big club, and therefore he will go into higher gears. I think at West Ham he's probably hitting his ceiling. I don't think West Ham next season will be as high in the league as they are this year. So I think this summer is the time for Declan Rice to go, and I think he would be perfect for Manchester United. And I certainly think that Declan Rice next to... I think if you brought a Declan Rice in, or any of these CDMs to be fair, what they do is that if Pogba did stay, or Van der Beek was used, you would say, Donny, Pogba, you've got more licence to go forward. I'm going to run the midfield from deep. You carry on. And that's what someone like a Declan Rice or a Zakaria would give you. Definitely. Look at Zakaria and Ndidi injury records. They are Bailly-like, says even Donson. Well, that's very important to bring in. Zakaria has had a bad injury, and Ndidi does pick up a lot of injury as well. So you're not wrong. And I'm not going to deny that. That is something that needs to be looked at. But obviously with Declan Rice, that isn't there. You pay what you get for, really. Some want Ollie out, some want the board out. At United, nobody cares. Just when the show started now, get a notification from the United app. David Beckham, Ollie has done a good job. Bloody hell, says DK. Well, I've listened to what David Beckham said, and David Beckham, to me, sounds like a fan that supports Manchester United, but probably isn't as deep diving as you are. I don't think David Beckham sits there analysing what Man United are doing in the transfer market, what the squad looks like, watching every single game and analysing like that. I think David Beckham's got his own things to do. And but what David Beckham did say that was quite interesting is that Ollie's a very quiet man and he gets around his business. He's done well. I mean, do you want a quiet man? I think more and more I just feel that with Solskjaer, if he wasn't a United legend, nobody would want him as the coach. And I do want him as the coach, and a lot of it is because of the fact that he's a legend, and some people would get angry with that. But also it's because of what we're doing in the league at the moment and the points that we've got. But I've got massive fears about where we're going to be next year. And that's why I'm doing this video today as well. I've got huge fears about where we're going to be today, because I would describe United's coaching as like an ostrich. We seem to bury our heads in the sand after every bad result, and we won't look at the real issues. How many times over the last 2 years have we said, he's got to stop playing Magaluf, he's got to give Bay a chance, and he won't do it. He's got to stop playing McFred and get Pogba in there. No, put him on the wing. Stubbornness. The trouble with stubbornness is you keep doing the wrong thing long enough and eventually you'll lose your job. Mark Rice plays in a double pivot very nicely with Souček. However, I don't think he's a proven lone CDM, says Antro. I don't know how many times you've watched West Ham play this season and Itro, but their double pivot is not the same as ours. They don't sit there protecting their back four. They've done that against us, and they've done it against Liverpool because we're better teams. But when you watch West Ham, and I think this is the problem I noticed with West Ham, is that I wasn't really watching West Ham and seeing where they were getting their points from. I could see them fifth in the league, but every time I saw them when I watch them play Man United or I watch them play Liverpool, I'm like, bloody hell, they're very defensive. But if you watch them against Arsenal at the weekend, you watch them against the other teams, they don't play with a double pivot like we do. Souček has got a lot of goals this season. He's got licence to get forward. It's only against us and Liverpool, where they're the underdogs, that Souček plays more deeper. So he does run the midfield on his own, definitely. And he definitely takes the ball off the back four and conducts people, if you watch West Ham in that way. Mark, I was chatting to a mate who seems to think Rice and McTominay are the same type of player. I don't agree. What is your reaction to that? Well, Kevin Bishop, Scott McTominay's not a centre defensive midfielder. He can't lead. His passing is atrocious. His tackling isn't that great. I think Scott McTominay is a box-to-box player. I think the further up the pitch McTominay goes, the better he gets. Some would say the further off the pitch he goes, the better he gets. But no, I certainly think the higher up the pitch he gets, the more you see of what McTominay is. He's not a centre defensive midfielder. Would you take Daka at Salzburg as our striker? Apparently we're looking at him, says Evander. Well, I'll come back to that in a minute. Mark, I feel terrified that this video is pointless. Legit, not even a whisper that Man United are in for a DM. It's driving me crazy. Can't let Van der Beek go, says Yazza Said. No, well, I find it stunning that we may not be looking at one. Option 3 is Bissouma at Brighton. Really like this lad. Again, only got a couple of years left on his contract. Is the right age, he's not 19, I think he's 24. He's done fantastically well for Brighton this season, and a bit like Lamptey at right back, that they're better than that level. They deserve to go better. And what I like about Bissouma is he'd probably come in without the status or attraction that a Rice would bring, but he would come in and I think he'd be a fantastic player for us, because what he does, he's very good on the ball. I think he's more of a box-to-box player. That's my only negative with Bissouma. When I look at him, I don't know whether he's just a sit there and do a job player, and that's my issue with him. I know he does do that role for Brighton a lot because they, again, a little bit like West Ham when they have to do a lot of defending, but I think there's more to his game than that. Having said that, that doesn't mean you can't turn him into that, because defensively, strength, reading of the game is very, very good. And he's got the passing ability as well. So I do like Bissouma. And again, I think, when you're talking about prices for these players, Declan Rice is probably going to cost you 60 million. Zakaria is probably going to cost you 30 million. Bissouma is probably going to cost you 30 million as well. If we actually sacked Ollie this summer, who would we actually bring in as our manager? I don't remember this turning into a let's sack and talk about Ollie show. That was last night, unheard. And Mark, the likes of Rice came through the academy at West Ham. Are we in a time at United that we can't promote within? We can't take a risk. Well, look, I'm happy to discuss that. The only player I know at United that's anywhere near ready first team standard to go in and play as a centre defensive midfielder is Jimmy Garner, who's on loan at Forest at the moment. And I don't think he's ready. And as we've seen with Solskjaer, he won't just drop somebody in anyway. Even if he goes next year, we've got Garner, we don't need to sign anybody. That basically means we're playing McFred, because Garner might get a couple of games here and there, but Ollie won't just go with a youth player. He doesn't do that. Brandon Williams had a little bit and then he was out. Mason Greenwood's been in and out. He won't just go with Garner. So Garner's the only player I think we've got. I don't think he's anywhere near ready, and not to start for us. We don't need a young player. We need a player who comes in and plays. It's like the centre-back position. We need a player to come in and play. It's not about... We don't need to nurture a CDM or a centre-back. We need a fucking CDM and a centre-back. That's what we need. So, and we haven't got loads and loads of players coming through in that position, to be fair. Now, this one's a little bit more left field. Hoffenheim Grilch was linked to Spurs about a year ago. Now, I'm not saying that this lad is pulling up trees by any sense of the imagination. But what I went for is somebody that's just... He reminds me of Carrick. He reminds me of Carrick a lot. He's very good at protecting his back four and reading the game. And what he's also good at is getting the ball and playing a forward pass. A very different CDM to a Declan Rice. A very different CDM to a Zakaria or a Bissouma. A different type of CDM. More of a Michael Carrick type CDM. More of a Jorginho sort of CDM. A player that is physically good at breaking up the play, but very good at shielding the defence and very good at passing. Now, whether he's the standard to come into Manchester United, this is a little bit left field, I must admit. I can't... It's very hard with a Bundesliga player. But what I'm trying to do with this is to say that there are many options out there. There are many different types of CDMs you can go for. I said it last week. I think we're not going to buy Jorginho from Chelsea, but I think he would do a very good job, because we're failing on so many different levels, which is why you can go for so many different centre defensive midfielders. You could try and find a Kante who's all action, very good at breaking up the play, driving forward, can play the passes, can run the midfield. Or you could look for a Michael Carrick type or a Jorginho type who, physically may not be amazing, but they'll take the ball off the back four all day and they'll play a forward pass all day. They'll shield positionally rather than tenaciously. And I think he's a player that could definitely do that. But what it does show is that it's not always, who can we get? There's bloody loads of players we can get. There's loads of footballers out there that could come and do the job for Manchester United. And what I wanted to do with Grilch really was not to say that we should go and get him, but he's another player with only 1 year left on his contract. He's 25 with 1 year left on his contract. Plays for Austria. And again, it would be quite a cheap sort of signing, but with a very different skill set to what we've got. We don't have a player who can do that. And I think that United should not be let off the hook with no value in the market, or we don't need one. We do need one, and there's plenty of value in the market. There's plenty of players you can get. And look, not every player you get is going to work. We bought Schneiderlin a few years ago. Premier League proven, it didn't work out. But there's definitely plenty of players that we can go for at Manchester United. And obviously, look, I'll put him in there. Ndidi, I think he would be absolutely perfect. I do agree about his injury record. But to be honest with you, I'd take Tielemans as well. This season, very impressive. Leicester without him, not so impressive. It reminds me a little bit of the Declan Rice scenario at West Ham, where you take these players out and their team suffers. Centre defensive midfield is such an important position, and I remember it with Michael Carrick and with Roy Keane, and they're not going to score goals every week. They probably won't score that many goals at all. They won't get many assists either. But they're the engine room. They run the game. They dictate the game. They are the conductor who allows the orchestra to play their music in front of them. And Manchester United don't have anybody to do it. And it's such a key position. I'm a massive advocate of the importance of the centre defensive midfield position, because you protect your back four, you take the ball off the back four, you provide the platform of security for your attack to actually attack, but you also provide them with that first key pass. And if that pass is a sideways pass, then the opposition is set. If you take that ball off Harry Maguire and you hit a 30-yard pass into Bruno's feet, and all he's got to do is, sometimes he might be able to do something first touch, but certainly take one touch, you've took your team up 30 yards. You've made your opposition have to spin and not be in position. And we don't do this. And we don't prioritise it either. Oh, we want a striker. What's he going to do then? The bloody Sudoku puzzle of the day. Like, we've got to build a football team. We've got to create a footballing side that causes other teams nightmares. The theatre of dreams. It's the theatre of 3 points for a lot of teams at the moment, because we are inviting the pressure by not putting teams on the back foot. And a centre defensive midfielder will do that. And it amazes me that Manchester United are not putting it out there, because this is a quick win as well. Putting it out there like they are through Manchester Evening News and other outlets that Manchester United want Erling Haaland. I don't actually see a lot of excitement from United fans about Erling Haaland. It keeps getting regurgitated all the time. I saw it again today. Well, United's put it out there that their priority is Erling Haaland. There isn't a buzz about Erling Haaland, other than he's a fantastic player. But Manchester United fans have always been educated and understanding of the greater good and what a footballing team is. Manchester United fans will appreciate a Nemanja Vidic. They'll appreciate a Dennis Irwin. They'll appreciate a Michael Carrick, even though they're not scoring goals, because Manchester United fans know the importance of a team. They understand that a team is only as good as all of its parts, and it's only as good as the path to goal, whether it's the goalkeeper, to the centre-backs, to the centre defence midfielder, to the attacking midfielder, to the goal scorer. They understand that. And United putting it out there that we're after Haaland, I actually think if Manchester United went for a centre defensive midfielder, and it started off this week that we're desperate to get a top quality centre defensive midfielder, I think there'd be more excitement in the fan base than there is about Haaland stories, because fans want to win. They want to be successful, and they want to see a path to being successful. Signing a striker in a team that doesn't create chances because we play a back six and they can't move the ball forward is terrifying. Signing a centre defensive midfielder that will get the ball forward quicker to people like Bruno, Pogba if he stays, Rashford, etc. is more exciting, because it's more about building a progress and a process. Are you going to watch the under-21s this week at all? France have Samari, Badashil and Koundé playing. Be interested to see how they play, says Nightas. I'm not really interested in under-21s international football, if I'm honest. Can you do one of these videos for right back? Aaron Wan-Bissaka is not the answer. Ben Anderson, I think you may have picked up on the hints that we're going to do one of these videos for centre-back, right back, right wing and probably striker as well. So you're going to get 5 of these over the next international break, which is going to be good fun. But this is the centre defensive midfield one. And I started on this one because I think it's the most important one. It's the most important one. I watch football And there's lots of other players out there, and I'd like to read some of them out. If you've got anybody that we haven't mentioned, then please do. Douglas Luiz at Villa. I mean, I don't know about him, Idris. I don't know about him. But Mark, you're talking like you're going to sign all the players you lot want loving this. No, we're not going to sign any of these players. I don't think we're going to sign any of these players. But what I'm trying to show you with these players is that they're all easily attainable for Manchester United if they actually want to go and get one. And the worrying thing for me is that we're not linked to one. We're putting it out there that it's not a priority. I despair. I literally despair. I don't get it. I don't get how you can lose a game against Leicester because of 3 crap midfielders. How we can play most of the season with a back 6 because we've got 2 crap midfielders, and then plan to go into next season with the same 3 crap midfielders. McTominay and Fred are never it. Matic and Fred are never it. To be honest with you, I'd sell all 3 and I'd get 2 in, but we're not going to do that. So for me, Matic needs to retire or go to Portugal or wherever he wants to go, and we bring in a top quality CDM. McTominay goes to the bench, Fred goes to the bench, you try and keep Pogba, you play a top quality CDM with Paul Pogba, and if anybody gets injured, then Fred or McTominay will have to come in and do a job. But here's the most controversial thing. I didn't do a shield for them. Where we are at the moment, and give me your thoughts on this. I personally think our best centre defensive midfielder isn't even a centre defensive midfielder. I personally think Axel Tuanzebe would be a million miles better than Fred or McTominay or Matic at the moment. He's defensively minded. He's quick. He's actually quite decent at playing a simple pass, which others seem not to be able to do. I actually would give Tuanzebe a go at CDM at the moment till the end of the season because I think he's better than what we've got. But look, we won't even give the lad a game at centre-back or right-back, so there's not much chance of that happening there. What about Baboucar Kamara from Marseille, says Sam Wills? Well, I'm not going to put my hands up and pretend to know a load about him, but decent scouting will bring a decent CDM in. I've mentioned 5 players, and as I said, the lad from Hoffenheim is a different type of player, but there are plenty of players out there. Some of these players have got 1 year left on the contract. Some of them have got 2. Some of them might even get relegated. There are deals to be done. Bissouma will be cheap. Zakaria will be cheap. Grealish will be cheap. Rice is an expensive option, and Didi is an impossible option probably because Leicester will be like, we want 100 million. But there are plenty of options out there without a shadow of a doubt. There's going to be other players. Tonali's at AC Milan. Kessie's a box-to-box player. Locatelli is the man, says James and Yoon. And Brighton, please get relegated, says Araf. And Pjanic might come for cheap, says Tanel. You know what? I don't even care. You know who I would like? I saw him the other day. I'd like Alan from Everton. I'd like him. I think people think I just want like a brilliant CDM. I'm not bothered. I would love to experiment with this. I sound like Ricky now. I would love to experiment with this, and I can't. I tell you what, if we'd had Alan, I'd listen to this, Fleck. Listen up. Listen to me on this one, right, Fleck. I tell you now, if we'd had Alan from Everton come to us last summer and played him in that midfield next to Donny van der Beek or Pogba, we'd still be second, but we'd have played a lot better football. And I firmly believe this, and I'm going to stop using Jorginho as the example. I'm going to use Alan from Everton. He, maybe not the world's best CDM, but he knows how to position himself. He's very good at protecting his back four, and when he gets the ball off the back four, he knows how to play a pass. That's the sort of CDM we need. And you only need one, and Andre Gomez is very good at that role as well, and sometimes they play as a 2. But don't tell me that Gomez and Alan are the same as McFred. They're not. They're both footballers who position themselves very intelligently and know how to play a forward pass and can carry the ball very well as well. They're both able to dribble forward with the ball. So we just need one. We need one. Sabitzer from Leipzig is class. Legit buy 3 players, 50 million that will improve our team massively. Salah was £45 million. City bought Kevin De Bruyne for £55 million, says Yazasad. And I would like to see us do more of that. I would like to see us buy players who are more on the front foot. You know, more players between 30 and 50 million pounds at Manchester United would be nice, as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, I've got this video is sort of a tale of two halves. Please smash a like on the video. We don't need a centre back. Twansebi and Baye are centre backs. The pace merchants, says Arav, yeah, but I don't think we can trust Eric Baye. And Diddy all the way. Goldie, says Pat Roach. Samari from Lille is another one. I nearly put him in myself. Samari was another one. I nearly mentioned Conrad Lemaire, I can't pronounce his name because he's actually Austrian and I always can't pronounce it French. He's another player a little bit like Grilch that you'll know more about. Very good at, you know, positionally. I like him as well. There's so many players out there that can come in and do a job like that. And Manchester United seem to be blind. And I'll say this, this has got nothing to do with the centre defensive midfield. I'm spending a lot of time thinking about United at the moment, as I'm sure you are. We're second in the league. We had a disappointing result at the weekend. We've got the Europa League to come. We know Solskjaer's going to get a new contract, and we know that this summer is probably going to be another disappointment. I am happy, well, I'm not happy to say this. Where I'm at the moment is, I will give Ollie till May. I've always said that. I want him to be the man that wins titles at Manchester United. But where do I honestly sit at the moment? Get Kimmich, says Tommy. Where do I sit at the moment? I think where I sit at the moment is that this season is not as good as last season, which is really controversial, I know. But I think the team that we finished last season with is better than the team we've got at the moment. I think the reason we've got more points is because Bruno's played a full season and not half a season. I think that next season we can't just be so reliant on Bruno. And if we're going to not buy a centre defensive midfielder, I don't see this team getting any better. And I think Solskjaer will be gone by Christmas at the moment. Yeah, I do. I think if he doesn't buy a centre defensive midfielder in the summer, he will be gone by Christmas, because fans will go back in the ground. The football will continue like it is. I think other teams will be better than us, and we will start to drop down the league. And as soon as that happens, Ollie said it himself, I'm not speaking out of turn. Solskjaer knows he's only ever one bad result away from being called out. It happened at the weekend. Whether that's right or wrong, I think Solskjaer next season, he's going into year 3, he's got to deliver something better than this season. And I don't think he can do it with McFred and Matic. So if he doesn't buy a centre defensive midfielder, I think United are going to struggle next year, because it's such an important position. It's the engine room of the team. And if we're not looking for one, we haven't got one. And I don't care whether you've got a world-class centre-back and a world-class striker in the club. If you can't get the ball from back to front, you ain't going to create enough chances. And you're also going to concede a lot of goals. What people don't forget, what people don't realise about a CDM as well is, it's not just that we don't move the ball from back to front for well enough. We concede a lot of goals because of them. We conceded 3 goals because of our CDMs at the weekend. Think about James Rodriguez unmarked in the box. St Maximum. There's been loads of goals we've been costed because of our midfield. So they don't defend well and they don't attack well. That's not a good recipe for another season, no matter what you've got at the back or at the front. Do you think lack of coaching, hence the pull movement up front, is part of the problem as well? I mean, we build up from the back with the same formation, but City changed formation when building up. I just don't think you can polish a turd, Arita. I don't think we've got a good enough players in the midfield. Haaland to Arsenal. He's good mates with Odegaard and likes London. Dortmund have a back 50 plus Abba, Zayn. And why are not buying players from the French league? The French league is having a tough time. Well, we spoke about that, Michael. We did. We spoke about that, and you make a good point. Please smash a like on the video. Zayn has just set himself up for a fall. I've just put up a video up on That's Football. The link is in the video description. Head over there. It's another, I think it's about 10 minutes long. Erling Haaland has dropped a hint about where he's going to go in the summer. This has come out today via Norwegian outlets. So check it out. Links in the video description. It's talking about where Erling Haaland's going to go. And interestingly, Zayn, Arsenal do get a shout out, so you probably will quite enjoy that. Check it out, links in the video description. It's only just gone up. Haaland, where he's going to go, and of course United are really in for him, so check it out, and I'll speak to you soon.